All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, August 29th, 2022 Southwick Conservation Commission meeting. It is happening both online via Zoom and here in the land use room. So I'm going to go around and just identify well, before I even do that, just to let everybody know, the meeting is being recorded. So if you're online or in the audience, the chances are if you speak up, you're going to be recorded. So just so that you understand that. So right now we have Commissioner Brian Drennan, Kevin Solak, and Andrew Reardon here with myself, Dave McWilliams. Before we get into anything else, why don't we just, Andy, welcome to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on board and look forward to your participation. So why don't we go through and take a look at previous minutes. We can approve the previous minutes. And as it stands, we have the minutes for August 15th, 2022. So if we could read through those, or if they've been read through and anybody has any comments or corrections, please let the commission know.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from August 15th with a couple minor corrections.
What do you got, Brian?
On page, I think the meeting under minutes was on July 18th. If we could get extra number there.
Oh, it's like a lottery number.
And then 141 Congamon Road, chapter 91 license, second to the bottom sentence. Looks like Chairman McWilliams will compost a letter.
That's kind of what the letter looked like. Right, okay. We will uncompose that letter.
Everything else looks great.
Anybody else have any corrections, adjustments that need to be made? All right, do I have a second with the corrections?
I'll second it.
Andy? Okay, aye.
He wasn't
Aye.
present, so it
Oh,
doesn't really matter.
well, I'm gonna say aye. So the minutes for the meeting were accepted with the corrections made by Commissioner Drennan. Gotcha.
No, it belongs on the table back there.
Yeah, just a reminder, if you're in here and you're looking to speak, you're gonna have to sign in if you wanna be heard, so if you haven't, please sign in. Do we have anything else that the board needs to sign before we move on? Everything's else all signed off on?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, let's turn it over to our friends in the audience or online for any public comments. Please step forward and state your name and address.
Michelle Pratt, 152 Berkshire Ave. I wanted to say Citizens Restoring Congamon's annual golf tournament is coming up September 17th. So looking for golfers, sponsors, opportunities to memorialize any loved ones, all available, congamon.org. And also just coming from the select board meeting and listening to Lake Management last week, in terms of the Beaver Lodge at Tri-PBJ, I think we'd all love to have that moved if there was any possibility of that or whatever things can be done. It sounded at the select board meeting like there may not be really anything that can be done in terms of getting rid of the actual animals and things. But if there were, we do have a volunteer with CRC who has heavy equipment that would be willing to volunteer his services to help do that.
Who's that?
John King. So you'd be happy to do that. And I wanted to say, at the last select board meeting, I did propose.
Hello, hey, how's it going?
I did propose that the select board adopt into its protocols to send out surveys to boards and committees to hear what they have to say about the candidates who are up for reappointment. I think that's a critical piece of the process that doesn't exist, to have that piece of communication open so that the boards who know these folks best can understand, are they attending meetings? Do they participate? Are they respectful? Are they knowledgeable? Are they doing what they're here to do? And it's upon those merits that those appointments or reappointments should be made. So I'm hoping that goes somewhere. I don't know, but I think it would save us situations like we've had with Marissa. Norm Cheever gave a phenomenal interview, I felt, speaking about his history and his knowledge and all of that. So I think he did an excellent job. And at the end, he gave a nod to Marissa and her contributions and stated his feelings that she did an excellent job serving on this board.
Great,
So,
thanks. I
yeah.
saw the questionnaire you put together. Fantastic.
Oh, great, thank you.
I think that would be very, very helpful. So thank you for that. Are there any other comments from the public? In the
So-
house? Somebody online?
Yep, Eric Muller, 12 Shore Road.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, so I'm Vice Chair of Lake Management Committee and do the water quality work on the lakes. So the purpose for me coming here was if people had questions about E. coli and what the tests mean and what have you, and water safety, I'd be happy to answer, so if people are concerned about it. And Sabrina, you mentioned the questions about the Beaver Dam. Would this be the Beaver Lodge near Tri-PBJ? Would this be an appropriate time for me to inject whatever I know?
Yeah, it's on the agenda. So can we just hold off on that until we
Sure.
get to it on the agenda? But is regarding the E. coli in the lake, I mean, not on the agenda at this point. So if you want to just spend maybe a minute or two just to give people an update on where that stands.
Sure. So the first thing to understand is E. coli is very different from cyanobacteria, where we have had blooms of cyanobacteria over the years until we did the treatment a few years ago. We got blooms all the time. E. coli doesn't bloom like that. It's not something that the lake supports by itself. It needs a source, and the source is fecal matter. That fecal matter could be human or animal, but it needs a source. The testing that's been done to date has just been to measure the amount of it in certain locations. There are tests that can be done to determine what creature it came from. Those tests are more costly, but that can be done. And the other thing people should understand is the E. coli oxygen kills it. So it doesn't propagate around the lake. It doesn't propagate distance-wise around the lake. It'll be local. So where you test positive, there'll be a source somewhere near there. Out in the middle of the lake, even when you have a high count near the edge, you don't have anything in the middle. The oxygen destroys it. And so the mixing that occurs due to wind and boat action or rain, any of these things will basically destroy it, which is good. People have asked, well, why are we getting it so bad this year? And we haven't had it so bad in previous years. And there can be a lot of factors, but one big factor most likely is we've had a long spell of it being dry, no rain, and hot, which is conducive to it. And then we actually had a fairly long spell with very calm winds, and winds actually help to wipe it out by generating mixing. So the other thing people should understand is when we test above the allowed number, that does not mean that suddenly the water is terribly unsafe. That's not what that means. There is a line there that's been determined, and it's kind of a screwball determination. It basically says that if you have over that number of counts in a body of water where people are swimming, then 8 people in 1,000 performing normal swimming activities may become sick in that situation. So it's not like, oh, if it's 1 count above this, everybody's going to get sick.
Okay.
And ingestion of the water is much worse than just getting splashed with it or other activities.
Well, absolutely appreciate the update on that. And if you could just hang tight till we get to the
Will do.
Beaver Hut, that would be greatly appreciated. So I have a letter that came in from one of the public, let's call it the public. It's from Mary Ann Philo, 11 North Pond Road, and I'm going to read it into the record. To follow up on my July 14th letter concerning the North Pond property, I've attached some pictures for your review. I'm unclear as what the purpose of the upcoming meeting with the state of Massachusetts is for. However, I have some safety concerns, which in my opinion need attention. My biggest concern is open flames and gas grills and charcoal that are allowed on the property. As you're aware, there was a brush fire on this property in May, which could have been disastrous, not only for the property itself, but for many abutting homes. There are private homes located on both sides of this beautiful property, which could be destroyed with careless activity. There can be more than 25 or more boats parked on the beach area, which in my opinion creates a safety concern for the residents that are swimming, kayaking, paddleboarding behind them. This also forces non-boaters to climb down steep hills to picnic or access the lake, which can be dangerous and may cause erosion. I understand there are many restrictions from many different areas on this property, so finding an acceptable solution will be extremely challenging when seeking solutions. Please keep safety in mind. Thank you very much. We are having that meeting tomorrow, so hopefully we can address the safety and I guess a couple of other concerns. So thank you for that.
I have a question about the brush fire. What, was that like on the property itself, or was that from the fires that, the controlled fires that happened in the Southwick Wildlife Management area?
I believe it was, go ahead.
I-
I'm sorry, you have to,
I'm sorry. I'm Lisa Bailey. I'm at 19 North Pond. I actually have got the conservation land right near where that fire occurred. It's nowhere near the wildlife. It's very, very close to North Pond Road itself. In fact, it was about a couple hundred yards off my propane tanks. And then South Long Yard's on the other side. So it's like on a thin strip between South Long Yard and where the North Pond properties are that are down on the lake there, if that makes sense. So if you come into North Pond where the cul-de-sac is, there's a trail that goes through. It's on that trail towards that end.
Is the trail on conservation land?
yes,
And how did the fire start?
I don't believe we know, but I can tell you just from living there, I came home and once it was out, a couple hours later, I listened to fireworks in there for a good half hour. I did call again, I didn't let it go, but, so I don't know if it was kids playing with fireworks or just starting a fire in there, but we did listen to fireworks up on the hill after that for about half an hour, so it could have been just something careless like that. I don't think we really know.
And how did the fire go out again?
We had the fire department there.
Okay,
So we had a good 4 or 5 trucks up there for a few hours to put it out. But yeah, it took them a couple hours and they finally got it out, but I did have to call again because we had fireworks later on.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I think of. It was really dry. Maybe somebody was lighting off something they wasn't supposed to.
mhm.
So,
I didn't see a bottle rocket stick
yeah,
on the
yeah.
property.
yeah.
Okay.
all right. Just want to put on record that another commissioner has joined the meeting. Moment Mazanagul is here, so we have increased to 5. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you, boy. No, no worries.
We always listen to lengthy conversations when you're in a hurry.
Yeah, believe me, I think I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna have our first public hearing. It is an RDA for 157 Feeding Hills Road. And it is for the construction of a play structure and walkway within the riverfront area.
These guys are squeezed over.
So that is back on here because it wasn't quite voted on correctly in our last meeting. So we need to revote as a negative determination for the playscape and a positive determination for the wetland, for
Okay,
the wetland walk. That it was just because you said that to table the wetland walk and that wasn't officially
right.
correct.
so fine. So are we voting on both or just the wetland walk?
We just vote on both, just to be sure, just to
Okay,
make sure we're doing it.
well, first, before we do that, you guys remember the conversation? And this is at the Crepes Tea House where they're putting in the Viking ship in the back. And they came in to see if we were okay with that, and we were fine with that. The other thing they wanted to do is they wanted to put a walkway down along and through the river area, and that's one where we told them it's probably, based on what he came in, it wouldn't be approved. So we suggested he not move forward with it. So I guess I will take a motion from really one of the commissioners that was here last meeting on the playscape, and that we are looking for a negative determination on that.
I'll make the motion for negative determination on that. Do you want to wait on the
Yeah,
positive determination? on
let's
that?
do them separate.
Okay.
Do I have a second? Mumet went first. Brian? Oh, your vote. Mumet beat you to it. He's good.
Sorry.
Yeah, I,
Aye.
an eye from me and Andy join in.
I have no information. on
Okay, so Andy abstains. Can I have a motion on a walkway through the marshland and the riverfront? And I think we're looking for a positive determination.
I'll make the motion and a positive determination on the walkway to the wetlands.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Brian?
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. All right,
Andy,
Andy? Andy's abstaining. Excellent. Thank you. All right. I like quick ones like that. All right, so our next public hearing is for 8 Shore Road. Proposed removal of 2 oak trees within 100 feet of Congamon Lake. So the Southway Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the Massachusetts Wetland Act 131.40 and the Southwick Conservation Commission's Regulations and Bylaws 182, Chapter 450, for a request for determination. The project location is 8 Shore Road, Southwick, Massachusetts. The project is the removal of 2 oak trees within 100 foot of the shoreline of Congamon Lake. The meeting is taking place now, and it's taking place here. Who do we have here for the applicant? You guys want to come up, please?
pictures of him, that's all we have. We don't have anything electronic.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
So why don't you walk us through what's happening at 8 Shore Road? How about that?
Ben,
Well,
I love your accent, so.
Who's that? Liz?
I don't have an accent, but yeah, we've got these 2 large oak trees which have become huge. We've been living in the house for 27 years now. And those trees are getting to the point where one of them's leaning rather precariously toward the house. And as the trees are pretty close to the lake, root systems on, I'm not a tree expert, but I'm told root systems on trees only get as big as they need to get to sustain the tree. When you get trees that are very close to the lake or reasonably close, the root system only gets so big, but the tree keeps getting bigger and bigger to a point where eventually it will fall over. One of them's leaning quite precipitously toward the house.
It's very close to the
Yeah,
house.
it's this one here. That one's got a pronounced lean this way. We've already had branches come and take part of our gutter out on the side.
Okay. Sabrina, did you go out? Is
Yeah.
this one
Yes,
you went
she
with
did.
Randy?
I've got some pictures, so the Concom meeting for today.
And the other one, God forbid, if it falls on my neighbor's house.
Like, and then, sure.
Well, I don't want to see it.
Oh,
We
that's
like
just
our
so
I
know
like
where
my
it is.
neighbor.
Yeah.
So. I don't know if you want me to point from the, I'll point from the screen. Here we go.
This is one of the trees, right? Because there's another one that kind of hidden behind
It's
this.
hidden in
Yeah.
yeah.
This is just one. This is the one that you're worried about leaning against.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you click through. That's
Yeah,
that same tree.
that's that
and
one.
here's the other one. And that's their neighbor shed.
Mhm.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And house.
And aesthetically, my neighbor's got a pretty good sized tree, which is not in that view, which, so if you took those 2 trees out, you'd still have a nice bit of greenery there. It wouldn't be all sort of exposed. It would, well, the properties would still sit nicely on the land with the tree there, I think.
Yeah,
so.
he's that tree there. He's got
Yeah.
quite a
I
nice
I
tree
think
there.
the concern with any kind of vegetation removal within that buffer zone it's not about aesthetics, right? It's really about the benefit to the lake. It's about the benefit to the slope. And it does a couple of things. One is it shores up the slope so that makes sure that it's less likely for silt or any kind of debris to flow down into the lake. It firms things up. And if it's close enough to the lake, it's gonna supply shade to the lake. And there's many animals, microorganisms that require a shady area in the water. So if you take away all the shady area around the lake, we're gonna lose some of the animals and creatures that live in there. So we don't want to do that. Our main concern is about safety. So if it is an issue of safety, then that's when we have the tree warden go
Yeah.
out. So what was the conversation with you and Randy when you went out there?
Randy and I didn't go out to this one.
Oh,
This
okay.
wasn't, they weren't filing for an emergency certification. They're doing an RDA.
Okay,
I'm not sure if Randy needs to go out for this one. If he does, then we can go back out there and check it out.
no,
Cause he says, he basically, well, actually, this might be for it. He checks out the health of the tree to see if it's about to like die or fall over,
right,
and also if it's a danger. So maybe
okay.
he would.
So not to belabor it, but I would love to come out and take a look at them and see if any other members from the board would like to come out and take a look at them. I
Okay.
mean, again, we take a couple of things seriously. One is the
Yeah.
safety for you and your neighbors and whether or not the trees are a danger. But is equally important to us is to make sure that we're not taking down trees just for taking down trees,
Yeah.
right? They're very important to the ecosystem of the lake. So if we can maybe schedule some time for us to come out and take a look, would really appreciate that. And then we
Yeah.
can kind of circle back around on this issue. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who wants to go for a walkabout down around the lake? Anybody have free time other than me? Andy has free time. I know he has free time.
You can go.
She
Um,
knows exactly where it is.
so,
From your house.
I know.
yeah, how were you guys for like afternoons, later in the afternoons? Try and get as many of the commissioners there as
Yeah, I'm usually
possible.
home by like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. Um. What works for you?
After 4,
Okay,
or actually, wait, no, I can go during work.
Yeah.
Anytime.
yeah. So I guess my question is there any interest from any other board members that want to go look at it? And if,
Is there a plan to remove the
Yes.
stumps or
Oh, no,
to
the
plant
stumps are,
after the stumps or?
the stumps are staying. We're not gonna have them ground down. And from what I understand, it's Allied's gonna do it. They're gonna be right in the front and they're just basically gonna
draining it out,
Yeah,
paint it out.
yeah. Yeah, and one of the other things I think we would push for is replanting of something that would take the place of that over time. So putting in some sort of tree that might grow back in, you know.
You won't
Something
find
local.
one.
But let's look at our schedules. Oh, geez. Okay, what's that? Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
Weeping willow.
yeah.
They're a little cherry.
what do you
trees.
have Thursday? Thursday good?
I think so.
Thursday afternoon? So why don't we do 3:30 Thursday? 3:30 Thursday? Does that work?
Works for me.
All right,
Thank you. Yeah.
we'll come out and see you.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. We're good. We'll see you
No,
then.
you have to request.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry.
Might be.
So you know what? I guess what we're gonna have to do is, we'll wind up having to continue the hearing. Does that work for you?
So we come back here afterwards.
Yeah.
and it's- Yeah, that's
Yeah.
no problem.
All right, so, I'll take a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing.
Lumet made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Andy?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me under control there, Gene. All right, so that's it for public hearings. We're gonna just jump into this list of new business before we jump into our list of old business. So, first thing is 26 Island Way, part of the LPP. What do we got?
Yeah, I hope someone's on for this. Anyone for 26 Island Way? No? Did they say they were gonna come today? Did they say
I
they were gonna
didn't hear
come?
from anybody.
Okay. So I guess we're just gonna have to push the phone,
Okay,
because they wanted a meeting with us to talk about their stuff.
okay, docs and such.
Yeah, they were,
Okay. So if they're not here, we won't talk about it.
okay.
Simple. All right. Try PBJ Marina Beaver Hut located on the shore of Lake Congamon. So is there anybody that? So can you come up and identify yourselves, please? Name and address.
How you doing?
Well, yourself?
Good.
I'm Betty Aya. I'm one of the partners, owners.
Hi, Betty.
Rick Labar, one of the owners.
Okay, great. So what's going on over there?
I'm sorry, I need address.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Addresses?
My home address is 537 Griffin Road, West Suffield.
269 Halliday Drive, West Suffield.
All right, so we're here to talk about a beaver hut. What's going on? I haven't seen it.
The beaver hut's been growing and growing. What's happened in the past year, it's actually hit our docks, the legs that come out, it was
Mhm.
all the way up to that. And it grew like 5 feet in 1 year. Excuse me. We're losing money because we can't use the docks. We can't put people on like 4 or 5 of the docks. Because of that, they can't
Mhm.
get through. And I'm watching it grow. And what's gonna happen if people don't, if somebody doesn't do something about it, it's gonna go right across the bridge to the other side, and you're gonna have a really big problem.
Right.
And we've talked, my husband was an owner, Steve A. was one of the owners, and he's passed away. But they've all talked with Dick Reynolds, Dennis Clark.
Yeah.
And they've been telling us that they were gonna dredge the area again. And that they were gonna try, they wouldn't let us do anything with the
They're
beaver.
gonna try to relocate the beavers and take the dam down, or the
Yeah.
hut.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was a walkway that came from one of the houses up top that walked down to the lake, and that's inside the dam. The beavers are building around it.
So Sabrina, you were having conversations with Mary on this? Did you have a conversation with Mary Grover about this?
About this one?
Yeah,
No,
okay.
sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm
I
just
do
thinking
have
about,
photos. I took some.
That's the one across the
photos,
barbecue place? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been there a long time.
And that would be in August 29th. Concom file. And then. Try PBJ. I just swung by over there when I went to go check that tree that fell down on the phone. It was a Friday, I think. It's in the,
Somewhere.
hit the file down on the bottom, yep. And
Sorry.
then towards the left slider. What are you doing with the music? Slide down, yep. And then Storing Bow, 29. You go ahead. Oh, that's the tree, next.
Nope.
There. So this is what you're talking about right here,
Right.
and it's got all that vegetation on it, it's been there for a while.
Is that a recent picture or is that an older
Yeah,
picture?
no, this was on Friday,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah.
So you could see where it's coming out.
Mhm.
And we were told during the spring that we could remove some of the brush that was there, and we did. And that was, it made, because I mean, it was right up to the legs.
Right. Hey, Dennis, you're online. Do you mind jumping on for a second?
Yeah, no problem, Dave. What can I do for you?
And so historically, how do we go about addressing an issue with a beaver hut like this?
We we did some research on it because it seems like it's not really a permittable thing it's not legal to relocate beavers. It's not, you can't do that. And as far as I know, beaver huts or lodges are not allowed to be removed either, as far as the habitat goes. So what we did was the Board of Health wanted to find out if it was similar to the geese, where it was contributing to, a health hazard. Yeah, they did some tests out there, had them confirm that. Turns out beavers are very clean animals, and they do not contribute to the E. coli. I found out an interesting fact that beavers eat their own poop. That way,
That's
they clean.
disgusting.
That's TMI.
Rabbits do that too.
Yeah.
So.
But something the Conservation Commission can permit, it would have to go through the Fish and Wildlife and the state, even though they try to pass the buck down to the towns as far as beavers go. We can breach a dam. The Board of Health can have them trapped off season, but as far as actually removing a beaver lodge, you would have to go through the state to get some kind of official permission. As far as
Okay.
I'm sorry, Eric Muller, 12 Shore Road. Can I comment?
Please.
Yeah, so we had looked into this a few years ago because this has come up before. Yeah, Dennis is correct. In Massachusetts, it's not legal to relocate beavers because there are too many of them. If you trap them, you have to kill them in the state of Massachusetts and in the state of Connecticut. We had looked into this, and before, it's not that you can't remove a lodge. You can't remove a lodge that has beavers in it. You first have to remove the beavers, which you are legally allowed to do. In season, a licensed trapper can remove the beavers. And once the beavers are not in the lodge, then the lodge can be removed, but the local conservation commission has to approve that. We looked into that a few years ago. So a beaver lodge cannot be removed until you are sure the beavers are removed. And you can have a licensed trapper remove the beavers. And then once the beavers are removed, then you can remove the lodge with equipment. But the Conservation Commission has to grant that. The local Conservation Commission has to grant you doing that.
Where would we go to take a look at the backup documentation of what you're talking about? I mean,
Yeah, good question. So Dick Granellis would be the guy to reach out to on that, because this was several years ago. Lake Management was interested in having it removed because we wanted to have Tri-PBJ move their docks further away
Yeah.
from the channel. And so Tri-PBJ said that they would be very happy to move their docks if the beaver lodges weren't there. And the interest in having to move their docks was to make that transit through the tunnel safer by having less congestion in that area. And so, like I said, that's the reason from a safety perspective.
Okay, so
It's desirable to get that out of there.
Mass Fish and Wildlife actually has a whole elaborate nuisance beaver management thing. It's like printed.
yeah, we're gonna see them
Read it.
tomorrow, so I'll make that a point.
You might want to look into that. Dave?
Yeah,
We're gonna do that, I think it was last year or the year before, Dick asked us not to put the docks in because they were gonna remove it.
Hmm.
And they came into some glitch or something like that where they,
And what they were supposed to dredge too, right?
yeah,
Because I remember them asking if we would move our docks over, if they
Yeah.
did all of that.
right.
right.
And,
We have,
everybody said, yeah.
So it's hard to move your docks over if you're not
Whatever
allowed
they
to
wanted
remove the
to do.
beaver dam.
we just wanna
Right,
get
well,
the
there's-
beaver dam moved because
As
we
you
moved
can-
it over to the right. We're losing a lot more.
I mean, I appreciate that you're in here. I don't know enough about the
Right.
removal of beaver dams to really have an opinion on this, but I'm certainly willing to look into it. If Eric is saying, and I certainly rely on Dennis's opinion, I appreciate his opinion.
Who was that, Dennis Clark?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
if there's a way for conservation to work with you to make this happen, but if you need our permission, that's fine. But I don't know that as gospel, so I would have to see something in writing unless somebody else on the board knows anything more than I do or has an opinion.
So I would say reach out to Dick Granellis because, you know, he actually contacted the state when Lake Management had our nose in
Yeah.
this. And we also found a licensed trapper who said he would be very happy to remove the beavers.
Okay, so we have somebody in the audience that would like to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to say this,
You know the rules.
Norm Cheever, 100 Berkshire Ave.
Right, thanks.
This same item was on the select board meeting tonight at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And after the meeting tomorrow on the North Pond violation that you're gonna be participating in. They said they're gonna bring Bass Fishing Game and DEP down to view this and pick their brains on what can be done.
Great.
I have a question for Eric. You said that the beaver hut can be removed once the beavers are taken away,
Right.
but what allows us to take the beavers away? Is it a health issue?
No, there's a trapping season.
There is a
The
trapping
landowner, if you are the landowner and you want to have a trapper trap beavers, you can trap beavers in Massachusetts. There is a trapping season and you can trap beavers. So whoever the landowner is, I don't know who that is in this case, can give a trapper the right to trap and they can remove the beavers. There's trapping is allowed. Trapping of beavers is not only allowed, it's encouraged. There are too many beavers in most of the northeastern states. So years ago, the states used to try to protect the beavers and you had to relocate them and all of that, but now there are way too many beavers. So they actually encourage the trapping of beavers because the population will be healthier if there are less of them. There are too many for the habitat.
So you said it's a property owner, but this is it's on a great pond.
Yep. So I don't know the answer.
Okay,
Unless they're looking for permission from the landowner in order to get to it.
maybe that,
Right.
yeah.
Go
That
ahead,
would be the
Dennis.
state.
But Mass Fish and Wildlife should be able to answer that question.
Right. Dennis, you were gonna say, it sounded like you were gonna say it's the state's property, right?
Yeah, the state owns the lake, so yeah, they should have, Eric's right, they should have the answers for you.
Okay, so I mean, that's kind of where we are. Nothing's gonna get decided tonight. You know, Mass Fish and Wildlife is gonna be here tomorrow. We'll have a conversation with them.
I sent you both of those
Okay, great.
email.
Yeah, I mean, I would also suggest from your side, you know, as concerned citizens, that you reach out directly to Mass Fish and Wildlife as well. And have conversations with them. I guess in this case, it would be a butters, right? It's not on your property. But the town, since it's not even town property, it's state property. So we'll see what comes out of tomorrow's meeting.
Well, the
Yeah,
lake is state.
Lake Management, you know, I'm sure would be happy to you know, pen a letter if need be, because from a lake safety perspective, you know, it would be desirable to be able to rotate those docks a little further away and make a wider transit channel through that area.
Okay, well, then, you know, that's a conversation for the Lake Management Committee's meeting.
Yep, thank
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right.
Mike, now,
No.
whatever happens tomorrow, will we be notified of any decisions or issues that come up?
Well, it sounds like the decision would come out of Mass Fish and Wildlife, and what their communication protocols are, I don't know. Again, it's their property, not Southwick's, not the town, so it doesn't sound like it's gonna be a conservation's decision that this is gonna happen or not.
Why are they coming?
So it's not up to the
We'll
town.
get to that in North Pond, the whole North Pond thing, yeah.
Could they be here to meet?
No, it's not regarding, it's, yeah, no, it's a closed meeting.
So if the state give us permission to do that, there's nothing to do with the town.
Yeah, I would just have your conversations with Mass Fish and Wildlife. That's really all I'm gonna keep saying is reach out to Mass Fish and Wildlife. The lake belongs to the state, not the town.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next up is Fred Jackson Road drainage upgrade.
John Goddard should be on the call.
John Goddard is on the call. I see him.
Hey, commission members,
Hi, John.
good evening to you. Let me
jump right in. I'll echo the welcome to the new member, and also speak to those who may not have heard from DPW on their generic order of conditions before and work related to it. DPW is the holder of an order of conditions that allows for work within the right of way that may be within buffer zone, riverfront area, and borderland subject to flooding. Subject to a few conditions, but the bottom line is that's intended to manage some of the infrastructure work that DPW undertakes. And in this particular case, we are looking at Fred Jackson Road. Shortly, we're looking at the entirety of it south of the new culvert and some of the drainage improvements they conducted part of that. But for today, we're just going to look at a small section of that falls within conservation jurisdiction. So this is a bit of a coordination discussion, opportunity just to keep everybody on the up and up about work that may be planned under that generic order of conditions. So let me see if I can share. Let's see. I'm going to try this. Let's see what happens. All right, you are looking at the stormwater mapping system that I've put together as part of our compliance work over at DPW. I've got College Highway. We're on the south side from Town Center, Klaus Anderson Road. And so we're picking up this section of work right at the intersection of Klaus Anderson and Fred Jackson Road, heading up the hill. Let's see. Do you see a street view?
Yes.
Fantastic. So anybody's been out here lately, there is a construction barrel over that structure that has failed and collapsed. And this particular network essentially is piped underground and stays primarily on the west side of the street for several structures, not quite to the crest of the hill up and beyond. But so it's mostly on this side of the street. And let's take a look at jurisdiction. Actually, first, if I can get my screen to behave. Oh, if I can get rid of that and get to a tab. There we go. Let's go back this moment. So here we are. The purple line represents the existing drainage. Each of these are structures and inspection points that we undertake moving along. So this particular portion of work right up to what's that, House 17 on Fred Jackson Road is what's being undertaken for this drainage network. And now I'm going to see if I can pull up a construction schematic for you. Come on, big money. Where is that? Okay. Let me zoom in a little bit. So what casts conservation jurisdiction onto a portion of this project is Tuttle Brook and its riverfront area extending beyond. And then on the southerly side of Klaus Anderson Road, that culvert, there is some mapped wetland area. So there's a small portion that falls within buffer zone. Broad brush. So far, I've just talked about this as infrastructure work, but specifically what's taking place is an upgrade to the drainage system. What exists right now are a series of catch basins coming down this hill that cascade from one to the other to the other. It's an older way of constructing stormwater improvements that by today's standards isn't acceptable because each flow into a catch basin churns up the contents and sends a portion of it downstream. So as part of this work, what we're going to be constructing are proper catch basins, 4-foot sumps and hooded outlets, and they will drain into manholes that will manage the common flows from up gradient and from adjacent catch basins before conveying it downstream. So that is the biggest picture of what's taking place out there. All of this is headed towards an existing outfall in the wall of the culvert
at Claus Anderson Road. We will be installing a doghouse manhole to try to intercept that existing outfall pipe. That way we can take each and every one of these structures off of the, if you will, that drainage path, so that only manhole flows will be directed towards that outfall. So no more cascading catch basins. That's it in a nutshell. We do have more work to share at a future date. That's going to be on more northerly sections of Fred Jackson Road. But we are working with the town's hourly contractor, Crestview Construction, on a number of drainage improvements, and wanted to bring this to everyone's attention, see if we can take any questions you might have.
John, when is this all gonna take place?
Very soon. I think they're working, they're next scheduled to be working on Robin Road. I apologize, I'm out of the office at the moment, so I don't know if they were there today, but once they finish some repairs over at Robin Road, they'll be picking up this work.
Okay, and the order conditions basically typical for any work in the buffer zone, silt fencing, what have you?
You know, it does have a number of, I'm going to call it standard conditions associated with it. And I'd be happy to forward this along to the commission members. The order is already in place. This work is covered under it. So this is just an opportunity to discuss it with the commission.
Okay.
I have one question. So the last structure, I mean, I see that there's hoods on the catch basins. A lot of times, and I don't know exactly Mass DOT standards or what you follow, but a lot of times they have like an oil water separator or something else. I mean, the trash, the hoods are, a lot of it's just like large debris, but to actually treat the water before it goes into Tuttle Brook, is there anything that you're gonna upgrade at that point for this, or is it just gonna continue just to discharge into the brook?
Sure, that's a fair question. Were this to be we'll call it a brand new project, then you're right. Those types of water quality treatment devices would be part of the picture, whether it's a private developer or a municipality. Under this proposed project, we're just picking up the improvements to get sumps in the catch basins, get the hoods on there, and get those catch basins offline. So that final, if you will, structure leading to the corrugated metal pipe that's just the doghouse manhole. Doesn't have, we'll call it those proprietary treatment elements built into it.
Not to say that the town has an endless supply of money, but how do they don't have to do that now? I mean, if we're doing the work, why wouldn't it be done and addressed properly now? If that standard has to fall for new construction, if we're essentially upgrading this, why wouldn't we do that at this point?
Well, suffice it to say, there are costs associated with it. And you acknowledge that in your statement right there. There's nothing improper about what's being proposed here. All right. In that this is part of a project to not only provide the upgrades we've mentioned, but also to, if you will, it's a repair to a system that's existed beyond its design lifespan. So while you're right, there may be one opportunity to do things, fresh from, square one all the way through. That's not typically a requirement for these infrastructure repair projects.
The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because we've held other people to certain standards. Recently, what's the address? Krabby Joe's.
141 Congamon?
141 Congamon. So they were upgrading their stuff, and we were concerned, and we made them follow certain things or treat their stormwater, although they were adding some parking, but we also made them follow that standard. So that's why I don't see how the town could have to, you know what I mean? It's not really fair if we're gonna hold a private citizen to a certain standard and then not the town. I guess is my only issue with it, I guess.
Sure, and I can appreciate where you're coming from. I wish you didn't mention the parking expansion because I wanted to be able to jump on that. There's no change to impervious surface out here. What we do have a change to is the water quality at the outfall.
A change to the water quality at the outfall, and you're stating it will be a positive change to the water quality.
Absolutely.
I understand it's better, but it's still not to new standards. Right.
If there were to be a change in impervious area, a certain widening, then that may come into play for discussions. Under the, let's see, the municipal separate stormwater system permit that we operate in more densely populated sections of the town, there are certain activities which are exempt from meeting those standards. And under that, road widening of less than half a lane is if you will, the threshold that the town can operate under without triggering those particular standards. Now, we are talking about, we'll call it apples and oranges, but just trying to come up with the context for why this is proposed to remain as it is without the treatment devices specified and installed.
That's all based on the order of conditions, right?
I'm
As they're
sorry?
That's all based on the order of conditions as they're currently written.
That is correct. If I can boil it down and say that the order condition is intended to be managing in-kind, if you will, replacement, and we're going a step beyond, above and beyond in-kind replacement for this project. I shouldn't say a step, several significant steps above and beyond. You know, the work for this project more than doubles the number of structures out there in order to take these catch basins offline and properly manage that.
So I know we can't
Discharge.
enforce adding oil water separators, right? Based on the order of conditions and the agreement between the town and conservation, what have you. But I think Kevin's making some pretty good points, you know, if we're holding private citizens to a standard and town to a different standard, you know, that seems a little different. I guess I would ask that, you know, the DPW take it under advisement that, you know, that is something that we're interested in seeing in place, and for future projects, if they can take that in consideration as well. So it just seems like we might be a bit hypocritical in the way we're handling things, and I don't know if that's a great look, so.
Understood. And I will certainly relay that that position. And I think it's perhaps healthy for us to look very closely at the parameters where, you know, that would make perfect sense.
Okay. But right now, this is more informal, you're just letting us know what's going on.
That's correct.
All right, well, again, unless anybody else has any other questions for John, I think we can move on to the next agenda item. We're moving.
Thank you all very much.
All right, so Sabrina, we need
John, you
to,
want to stop sharing your screen? Thank you.
thank you, revote on correct address. So correct address for 141 Congamon Road, incorrect address as 141 College Highway in the August 15th, 2022 agenda. So this is a simple vote to accept the change to a previously published agenda. So I would like to hear a motion to make a change to the agenda for August 15th to reflect the corrected address of 141 Congamon Road.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Brian. Can I get a second?
Second.
Lamette seconds. Andy,
Oh, abstain, I wasn't here.
okay.
No, yeah.
Kevin,
Yeah, yes.
excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Increase in emergency certifications for tree removals. So Sabrina, why don't we open up that conversation? Go ahead.
All right, yeah, I want to have a conversation with the commission about emergency certifications for tree removals. Obviously, it's on the agenda. I don't know if this is a fluke. I don't know if it happens every year, but the past few weeks I've been getting a lot of calls saying that people want to remove trees on their property. Of course, I'm new to this, and removing trees kind of makes me nervous, and I want to make sure I'm doing the correct thing, and I also want to hear what you guys have to think or have to say about it. So with the tree removal, emergency certification, basically I can just fill out a form and say, here you go, this is valid for 30 days, you know, go for it. They have to keep the stump. I'm correct with that, they have to keep the tree stump.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if the commission would want me to also say, you need to plant a tree in its place. A tree or a shrub, a bush, something. So we don't lose that vegetation. It's mostly happening around the lakes right now.
So, well, we only get involved if it's in the buffer zone.
Exactly,
So
Yeah.
it has to be around some body of water for us to
Right.
get involved.
right.
And we've been doing these emergency certifications forever. Dennis, you probably have done hundreds of them. But Sabrina's right. It seems to be an uptick in it. And these were initially proposed for trees that were a hazard. And it seems like there are a lot more for people who just want a better sight line to the lake, right? Which, you know, there's provisions where you can actually prune your tree so that you can get a better vista view. But we're not advocating cutting trees down just so you get a better look at the geese on the lake. So the way the process works is they reach out typically to either Concom or they reach out to Randy Brown, who is Southwick's mandated tree warden. In most cases, Randy Brown and the coordinator, or I've been on a bunch with Randy Brown where we go out and we look at the trees, make an assessment as to whether or not we feel they are a threat. Are they dying? Is there dead branches up there, things that are going to fall? And then if we, again, offer to award them the emergency certification, they have a very limited amount of time to do it. But again, we're seeing trees that are deemed no threat, or even if they are a threat, you think that they could last a little longer. Randy and I talked about it, and one of the kind of meet you in the middle conversations was, okay, take a tree, plant a tree. Right? If you're going to take one down, plant one in its place so that we continue to shore up the shoreline, firm up the shoreline, something along those lines, shore up the shoreline. I like that. And provide any kind of habitat that those trees may be doing. Now, Dennis, I'm going to ask you, can we mandate that? Do you think? Dennis Clark, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, Sabrina, she's been writing, there is special conditions you can put into the emergency certification, and she does put not to remove the tree stump. And I don't see why you couldn't specify to plant another tree in its place.
Great, great. So, I mean, again, it does help the person. We're still going to go by the standard. Is it a healthy tree? Is it causing any possible damage to the people or their neighbors? But if they're going to take it down, I just say we move forward with mandating that they plant another tree of some sort. Is there opposition to putting that in?
I think it gets shady when you talk about shady, but it gets a little kind of gray when if somebody cuts down an oak and puts an arborvitae, for example.
Well, you're right.
Okay, so are you gonna define of equal value a tree or whatever, something small?
So Sabrina and I did have that conversation, and yeah, you're right. You know, a burning bush for a mature oak is not a fair compensation, right? So I think we would go through, and I think we talked about, these are trees that are local to this habitat and could thrive where they are, and mandate that they take something off this list. Similar to what we do when we're talking about replenishing wetlands, when, you know, it's got to be local, it's got to be something that's going to thrive here. You can't bring in kudzu from Japan, right? So I think we'll just move forward with that. If anybody, there's no opposition, we'll just.
Should I should I kind of create a list of what I think would be appropriate
And let's take a
replacements
look
and
at it.
then maybe have you guys look at it and see if
That
you
would be a
agree,
better
like,
idea to have a-
Yeah.
I'm also.
Like a
thinking-
limited list of local.
Yeah, and maybe not just trees, maybe also
Trees,
give them
yeah.
the option of putting in a bush,
Mm,
something like it. So it doesn't get so tall or dangerous down the road. I think that's what
Right.
a lot of people are worried about. They have this big tall tree, it's sort of leaning off to their neighbor's house and they don't want to be in that situation again.
Okay,
well,
yeah, so can you put that together? Thank you.
Mhm.
Next item, possibility of trail cameras on North Pond. Well. I think we brought this one up at the CRC meeting, and I think the comment I heard from somebody in the audience was, that sounds great, I could use a new trail camera.
Right,
So I think that's my biggest concern
Yeah.
is we're talking about putting up trail cams in a public forum and people are gonna know we're putting up trail cams in the public forum.
I said the possibility.
And then people are gonna have trail cams, right? I do think it's a great idea. When we met with Mass Fish and Wildlife last year, I thought they told us they might have something, so why don't we have this conversation with them tomorrow? I'm all for it
Okay,
in strategic areas,
right,
primarily the rope swing area where we see the fires happening up there and where the majority of the litter is taking place.
Mhm.
And certainly over by the beach area to see, you know, obviously there's some concerns over there as well. So I would be fine with putting a couple of them up there, but let's have a conversation.
It's the wildlife management area, and they've been pretty successful in getting rid of motorized vehicles.
The one that's in the.
Yeah,
box
and that
on
was
the-
It's
part of it
hard to
too.
prove somebody in a helmet, you know?
The
But,
issue is budgeting too, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, something high up in a container seems to work well.
That's some of the questions that I have for that is if we do get a trail camera, is it gonna be on all year round? Who's gonna maintain it? Who's gonna watch the footage or look at the footage? I don't know if it's just pictures or what. Are we gonna try it in one area, see if it actually gets something, if it does, because I'm not very familiar with trail cameras. I know a little bit of wildlife, you sort of strategically put it in one area to
Well,
get,
aren't they motion activated?
yeah.
They're
So they
Motion
can be-
activated, A lot of them have an SD card.
Whether they'll take a little video or like 4 shots, 3
Yeah.
seconds apart. That
We
sort
have,
of thing.
we have
You
to
can
have
set all that
somebody
down
actually
to-
looking at the footage as well.
Right,
Is that gonna be somebody on our committee? Is that gonna be the
Once you
police
look at it.
department?
Once you look at it, is someone gonna do something about it? So Mary Ann sent you these lovely photos. Now, if she had sent them directly to the police station, would the police station have gone over there and cited them for having a barbecue that day? Or being, is someone? gonna
Well,
go
we
out there
don't know
directly?
if those people
Right.
sitting on we don't know who did those 3. They're just,
These-
that's the aftermath, and
Yeah,
that's
these are
the
Mary
point
Ann's
of
photos.
putting up
yeah, it's
a camera is to actually get people doing things in the
But
action.
are
rather
you gonna enforce what so like here, there's a guy in the white t-shirt with the
Mhm.
blue swim trunks with the red stripe. So
Uh-huh.
you see him having a barbecue in the woods, you can't identify him from a photo, you're gonna have to go over there right now and stop.
Right.
So if you take a photograph and call the police, you have a photograph, are the police gonna go enforce this now? Because once he leaves the lake, you're never gonna find this guy again.
Right,
well,
and
particularly if he's not from town. But hold on one second.
No, I just wanted to. Lisa
You
Bailey,
gotta identify yourself again.
Yeah, 19 North Pond, Lisa Bailey. I just wanted to make a comment on that trail cam as well, because a lot of them are not connected to Wi-Fi, so you are gonna have to have somebody that goes out there and
Right.
retrieves these. And Andy's exactly right, unless you're there on the spot, we're not gonna know who or what this person is. If the boat is in the picture, with the numbers on the side of it, excellent, because in the past I've had to call the police on situations like that. There's a boat in the picture, they can very easily identify who that person is. As far as the people that are coming in, maybe you need something that takes a shot of those license plates. Because 99% of those people are coming in a car. So even though you can't identify the person, you're either gonna have his boat number if he came in by boat, or you're gonna have his license plate number if he came in by car and parked up there. Those would be 2 of the best locations, probably to maybe help a little bit. It's gonna be tough, it's a tough reach, I understand that.
Yeah.
I have a trail camera in there myself right now. Thankfully, it's still there, nobody's taken it. But that's just my suggestion. I think we need to capture the license plates too, because you've got a lot of out of towners that are coming in. And I think that's gonna be the quickest way to identify at least who that vehicle belongs to and maybe kind of work it down from there.
Well, what gets registered in the parking lot versus what the activity is that's going on the property? How do you correlate the two?
Agreed. Like I said,
Right.
it's a tough reach, but I think even just starting with that parking lot. Well, in fact, a lot of those pictures, I've taken, and a lot of those are mine. And it is tough after the fact. I call when I see something.
Mhm.
You don't always see it right off the bat. And I think that's the gap we need in closing.
Agreed. It's the call when you see it
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and what happens when you
Yeah.
call, when you see it, hear it, smell it, right?
So I also think that, I mean, it would be nice if we could get possible violators on camera, but it would also be nice to sort of survey who's doing what. Like, is it the boaters that are doing it? Is it the out of towners? I personally don't think it's the out of towners from what I've seen. I think it's teenagers. But I think that would be able to sort of hone in on what our issues really are rather than just like stipulating. And then we can go from there.
Yeah, I think if we can get the funding for them and we can get a couple of them, we can move them around
Mhm.
and see where the biggest impact is to have one. You
And I
know,
can tell you just from, I mean, I've got a bird's eye view, I'm right on the corner of conservation there. And I can tell you that even though there are a lot of teenagers over there, why load your car up and pay an entrance fee to someplace like Hampton Ponds? Put your car up and bring 25 people down the hill. I've seen grills, 8-foot tables. We're talking families of 10, 12 people. These are not just teens.
Yeah,
you're
no,
talking down on the beachfront area.
No, talking coming over that hill, the parking area.
yeah, I've seen them too, but from my experience, they take their trash out.
Nope.
That's
Absolutely
from
not.
from my experience, they take their trash out. I've seen it with my own eyes. But it's the teenagers that go there like at night. That
There have
leave,
been
that
empty
leave,
boxes down there from, let's buy an inflatable, and then the box gets left behind. They're buying new stuff and leaving. We go around on our kayaks and jump in and out, and we take walks. We're trying to do as much cleaning at the end of the weekend as we can, which we shouldn't have to do, but it's a combination of both. I don't disagree with you. The teenagers cause a ruckus up there as well, but
Mm.
I think it's a combo of both.
I agree. There's, well, listen, I just picked up the trash today and there
Awesome.
was new inflatable stuff,
Yeah.
boxes sitting there. It's always the case. You know, why people can't take their own trash with them, I don't know, but you know, I don't necessarily think that that property is different than most other public properties. There's gonna be trash. If you let people on a property, there's gonna be trash. You know, this is just happens to be the one that we're living next to, and it's an issue. But I don't think it's unique, but if we can minimize it, then we minimize it. So we'll have a conversation with Mass Wildlife tomorrow about the cameras, because again, they own the conservation restriction, so we need to figure out what their concerns about us putting cameras on the property. Parking lot is us, so we can do what we
Yeah.
want in the parking lot, but once you're down on the conservation area, it's them.
I just have a quick follow-up, sorry.
Mhm.
I keep hearing a lot about some kind of meeting that you guys are having tomorrow. Can you elaborate on that? What is happening tomorrow with North
So,
gathering?
Yeah.
I'm unaware of that, just trying.
so members of the select board, conservation, the health department, Mass Fish and Wildlife, Mass DEP, are getting together to kind of figure out how we can address this holistically. Oh, and the police department are part of the meeting as well. So first, going through and identifying the issues. Second, trying to put a management plan together to kind of, how are we gonna manage those issues moving forward, right? And what policies do we need to put into place to get those things managed? So that's happening tomorrow morning,
Okay.
all right? And
And what comes out of that, is that gonna be open for us to hear at some point, I would think, just to see.
once there's, I think, once there's a management plan for the property, yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be
okay.
public information.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, the meeting is not a public meeting tomorrow. I thought it might have been, but it's not a public meeting. It's really just an informal session. Otherwise, I'd say, come on down, but
Yeah, that's kind of tough.
Initial conversation.
yeah.
Diane, yeah, I just wanted to suggest if you're gonna put cameras up, that post that you have surveillance. It'll be a big turn.
Agreed. Agreed. It's like all those ABT sound signs in front of people's houses, you know, they don't have them. Those are the ones you break into. All right, so we gotta move on. We got a lot left to cover. Conservation land maps and kiosk signage. So the holes have been dug at the gorge.
Mhm.
Sonotubes are in, we need to fill them.
Yep.
And then create. So you're just waiting for the brackets. As soon as those are done, we'll put together a workday.
Correct.
All right.
So you guys have a printout in your. You should have a printout in your
Packet.
packet.
This thing.
So, yeah, that thing. One is of a mock-up of a map of the North Pond Conservation Area, and another one is a picture of the Dismal Brook, right? Dismal Brook.
Dismal Brook.
Dismal Brook Wildlife Preserve kiosk signage. I had gone to Dismal Brook with Marisa, I think it was like last month, and we saw this kiosk and we were really inspired with what they had come up with for their signage. I looked at the map and I said, I know someone who could possibly do a map just like that. So I got in contact with my friend who's a GIS specialist for the Fish and Wildlife. And we walked the conservation area at North Pond and sort of followed our trail with an app on our phones. And then we imposed that onto this map. This map can be edited. It's just what he sent me. It's our mock-up.
Well, aren't these maps, trails already mapped?
They
I mean,
are.
we just went through this not too long ago.
Yeah, they are. But the thing is with that trail map that's on the kiosk at North Pond, it's not printable, really. It's a photograph. So I was thinking that we could put on a map, not necessarily this one. Put it up. So my vision basically is to have these sort of kiosk boards for the gorge, for North Pond, and possibly something similar at the Sofinowski, because the Sofinowski kiosk informational board is outdated and
QR code?
that's what I was also thinking about, putting a QR codes up, making this sort of like
Everybody
interactive, maybe even like having a voice recording of talking about vernal pools or whatever's on these lands, and also being able to upload the map and have you be able to like walk around the property and see where you are GPS, like sort of like updating, bringing this up to times and just making it look nice and put together and sort of streamline that across our properties
Right.
being managed. So this is what I've come up with so far. I wanted to know what you guys think, if you want help. Marisa said that she'll still help me with doing this. I know we did a brochure
Doing what?
doing like
The
designing.
graphics?
Yeah,
Okay.
designing the board. We did sort of a brochure for North Pond. We might be able to use some of that information for the kiosk board at North Pond. There's stuff that should be written up for the gorge, if anyone has any information about the gorge. Any information about Sofinowski over here, just put our heads together and see if we can come up with something, because I think this looks really nice.
Listen, I think they look fantastic. I love the fact that they're weatherproof,
Yeah,
right?
I don't exactly know the material, but it's something it doesn't necessarily need to be behind protective plastic.
So again, the issue comes back to there's a cost factor in having these things printed, and I'm assuming they're not inexpensive.
Mhm.
Now, you know, we have Sofinowski, we have money through I guess, a gift account that could be
Mhm.
used for something like this, which is fine. I know there's other work that needs to be done at Sofinowski's. I'm not sure if this necessarily, well, we could probably use the CPC funding for,
Yeah, I think
North
this
Pond.
covers the CPC. Yeah,
it would be the gorge, you
Yeah.
know? So I would say, why don't we find out what it would cost
Mhm.
for each of these. I think it's a great idea. The kiosks are there. It's just retrofitting them with it.
Exactly, yeah.
But I love what these things are. I've seen this at Dismal Brook and
Yeah.
similar things at other places. It's definitely an upgrade.
I mean, this is not gonna happen overnight. I have a feeling it might be like a year in the making to like really hone in on this and have it to the point of printing. Cause like, I wanna do the QR codes. I wanna do a
So much
lot of
easier.
cool things with this and I want it to last for a while and to have good information on it. But yeah, this is,
I mean, some people are always gonna like the, the folding flyer concept of.
Right.
You can have a few of those, but I bet you the majority of people will just go with the QR.
that's another thing down the road is I wanna work on possibly doing brochures, so people can take that with them.
Right.
And cause I like a paper map. I don't like carrying a phone when I'm walking around.
Trying to get away from it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
staring at your phone the whole time, that's not the point. But some people,
So remember, just keep us updated.
okay,
Let us know what you need from us.
I need help.
Okay, anything
I need
other than help,
volunteers.
whatever you need
No.
other than help.
I can't do this on
All
my
right.
own. But yeah, I wanted to just touch base basically with you guys and just let you know that this stuff is in the making and in mine and Marissa's head, and if any of you guys want to help.
Ping us for what you need.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Habitat management, removal of invasive species on North Pond.
So this is just another, just a discussion. There's been no action. I had talked to Ben Mazay. Is that how you pronounce his last name? The habitat biologist for the Southwick Wildlife Management Area?
I don't, yeah,
The
yeah,
for-
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
tree guy.
Yeah.
So I had spoken with him for a different reason. And I had noticed that on the Southwick Wildlife Management Area, they had removed some autumn olive. Autumn olive is a highly invasive shrub that's making its way around this area. And we had gotten into a conversation about invasives, and he said, I believe he said that he was talking to Dennis about possibly dealing with the invasives on the North Pond property. The thing is, when you have invasives on one piece of property, that is going to spill over. So it doesn't really matter how many times he gets rid of his invasives, he still has to deal with what's spilling over from our property. So he had mentioned something about a grant, invasive species. Apply for a habitat management grant. I haven't had time to look into that. But it's also
Can you get
sort
the
of,
help of a grant writer?
We would have to find a grant.
Yes, yes.
yeah, if someone wants to write up for that grant besides me, that'd be great.
Right,
I'm lacking in
Sometimes they
time.
Tell you what they're looking for, so. Makes it a little easier to write
Yeah.
on, just hit those. Button points, whatever they are that they're looking for.
Yeah,
You cover those, they don't want to know anything else.
okay.
Yeah.
I have to look up what this actual grant
Yeah.
is. He just mentioned that, and he said that we can apply for this grant for all of our properties,
Mhm.
including the Sofanowski property, and we mentioned that on Sunday.
Right.
So this is something that I think needs to get done. I've noticed that, I know Rail Trail property isn't ours, it is Park and
Park
Rec.
and Rec.
However, I'm not sure if the landscaping that they did, they purposely planted autumn olive. It does look like that, but autumn olive is just in the area over by my house, it's just taken over, and it's upsetting to me because it was such a nice area with really nice vegetation. I'm a nerd with that. But it's being taken over, and we need some sort of invasive species management plan, I think. If there isn't one already.
Well, if there's a grant for it and we can get funding for it,
Mhm.
that's great. If we can identify, I know that we could probably get volunteers to go out there and actually eradicate it if we are taught and explained how to do it.
That's the thing, I don't know how to do it.
Right, so let's find that out.
I think Ben said that he was gonna write something up for me explaining what they do, but
Yeah.
he said it might take some time before he can actually
Okay,
get the time to write it up.
well, let's,
If we
let's,
did something like that, Dennis might be able to chime in. Sopanowski had a massive, multi-floor rose issue. And there was some I think we. Dennis, jump in anytime. I think we secured some funding, something for it, but they had to like cut them and then you had to brush them with this chemical and that stopped them from coming back.
Was it blue?
Went down into the root and
Was it
killed it.
blue?
I don't know what it is, like a white substance. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dennis
I,
is fine.
I think the bottom line is that you actually have to hire somebody to, probably applicate on there to get rid of it. But
knows what they're
when you
doing.
talk with the Fish and Wildlife, because I was told by Fish and Game that we didn't have to apply for that wildlife management grant because we're automatically, I think we talked about it, David, we were on the field that day.
Yeah,
And we are automatically, so I'm not sure, we should discuss that. See if we have to go through all the motion of applying for that grant, going through all that hassle if under our conservation restriction, we're automatically included on that. That'd be a good thing to have a conversation with tomorrow to figure that out once and for all.
Doesn't the grant mean money?
no, that's, yes. But what Dennis is saying is he thinks as part of the conservation restriction we have, we're automatically eligible for that. That we shouldn't have to
Oh.
apply for it.
There you go.
And that's what
Okay.
we were told by Mass Fish and Wildlife,
Mhm.
and I haven't seen a check come in,
Hmm,
so.
nothing mentioned. That tomorrow.
They won't give it to you unless you ask.
Right.
Well, we've asked a couple of times.
They just keep asking.
Yeah. Okay, squeaky wheel.
Mhm.
All right. Granville Gorge issues?
So I had gotten a call, not last Thursday, but the Thursday prior, saying that the gorge, there was a lot of trash, there were fire rings, there was glass. And actually Marisa went on the same day and she's like, yeah, the place was like, it was disgusting. But a week later, Brian and I, we went out to the gorge and it was like squeaky clean,
Mhm.
except for the fire rings were still there and like the residual glass. There wasn't any like new bottles being broken. It was the tiny glass that's been there for a while.
When was this? I mean, I was out there too, and it was pristine.
Right, so I'm not sure if there are some little like helper elves like going in there and cleaning.
So, no, what, buildings and maintenance has somebody going around and picking up the trash there.
Yeah, at the trash bin.
Yeah,
And I asked Dave, I'm like, did they go down on to the property, like walking around and picking it up? And he said, no, just over at the trash bin, the parking area.
Yeah. They'll pick up what's in it and around it.
Yeah. Yep. But the fire rings still remain. I think that we might need to get some volunteers out there and get rid of the fire rings, at least to deter the fires. There was an area where there wasn't even a fire ring. It was just like right next to a rock, next to the water. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that it's not just North Pond that has issues. It's other
Right.
areas that have issues as
Right.
well.
Well, like I said, if you let the public on a piece of property, there's gonna be issues, you
Yep.
know, it's just about managing.
Yep.
You want fire rings ripped apart, we'll go do. That's
Yeah.
a no-brainer. That's a 5-minute job. Very
So-
good at
so you
destroying things.
volunteering?
Want to destroy stuff?
Sure, I'll destroy
Yeah.
it.
Anybody
Okay,
else
good.
want to destroy stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna destroy it. We'll
Yeah.
take care of that.
Let's try that fire ring.
All right, so Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions has a fall seminar coming up, conference, let's use conference coming up. We are all members of the MAC. And as such, we can sign up for these seminars. Are these all online? I'm assuming by the dates Tuesday and Wednesday?
I think they're in person. Are they in person?
This is the two different things.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, MAC is excited to announce that we're back in person fall conference on Saturday, October 15th at Fort Devens. Mamet, I know you and I have perennially gone to these things as well as
Right.
Dennis. Yeah,
I'll go to the spring one.
but these are great opportunities.
February, March.
Yeah,
I can't go to this one.
They are.
Spring for sure.
That's where I got them. Oh, wait, no. Like held online meeting?
Mhm.
Why?
They're not in person.
What doesn't it say? It's in person?
This is in person,
That one's in.
but
person.
this is in person and only for a Saturday. These are online courses.
Oh,
So we need to find out what Saturday courses are available and sign everybody up for those. There's a deadline, right? Which I'm sure is on here. So the question is, why don't we take a head count right now of who would be interested in actually physically going to this conference on October 15th? So I'm in, Sabrina's in.
I'm looking at, I would like to wait this spring.
Okay.
I'm like chaotic, so. Thanksgiving.
It's also opening day presents, so there's no way. I'm sorry. Priority. But spring for sure. I think it's end of February, beginning of
Yeah,
March.
that would work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go with that. Can we take the town car?
Sure.
Town car, take a limo.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, town car, we take the town car.
Brian, you're out or you're in?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I'll look into it.
So we'll have to,
Sometime.
so at least I know I'll go. You'll go.
oh, yeah.
I don't see on here when the deadline is.
So this is, so I printed out something different. Is what
Okay,
I did.
well, let's focus on this.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
thought it was, but I was wrong.
Okay, so there is a website that has all the classes. Can we just get those printed out and sent out?
I tried.
So.
Yep.
Sabrina, if you could send those out, we'll get back to you. Can we put it, today's what, Monday? Can we put a deadline by the end of the week if you're interested in going? Get back to Sabrina with the seminars that you want to be a part of so that we can get that in. Gene has to cut them a check or the town has to cut them a check. All right, so by Friday, please. Possible subcommittee?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been thinking about for a little while now. As of, just from observing the past meetings, I don't really feel like we have necessarily the time or the manpower to properly manage the conservation lands. I feel like the open space committee, which was, it was created, I think, in 2003, and then it was dismantled, I believe, in 2020.
Yep.
I think it should be resurrected as a subcommittee. I don't know if it was a subcommittee before to
It
Concom, but
was,
I think it should be resurrected as a subcommittee in order for us to properly manage the conservation lands. I don't think we do the conservation lands do justice at all as we stand right now. And I kind of wanted to know what everyone's thoughts were, if they wanted to say yes, and then let's get the ball rolling, or if you feel like we don't need it.
I think it was useful. Kind of how I got involved, but I mean, it was useful to have a separate body of people who just did this stuff.
right?
That's all they did. You know, they did visits, site visits, they checked on things. They came back and reported just like you guys do. You know, and said, you know, where there were needs, where things were fine, what it could use. And that helped kind of keep it on the agenda and alive.
Mhm.
And seeing what I saw at Stefanowski, I think it really helped it go a long way as far as maintenance and everything else goes. It didn't fall off kind of the wayside like Stefanowski has. It looked like, you know.
Yeah, I think part of the issue that we have is we've got such a bright spotlight right now on North Pond that every other property in this town is just not being looked at because
Right.
everybody's blowing up over North Pond,
Right.
you know? But you're right, there's other properties that we're responsible
would
for in this
Probably
town.
provide the balance that we really can't do alone,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you my concern about having a subcommittee is it would have to be probably members that are not part of this group.
yeah,
Um,
totally understandable.
Right.
so it would be, I mean, some members from this group, but you know, I know volunteering takes up time
Yeah.
And, it's difficult for us, as I think a lot of committees, to get a quorum, and asking for a second meeting during a month or every 6 months. It doesn't have to be monthly, I don't think either. But yeah, we would want a subcommittee, from my opinion, that would allow other people to get involved.
Right.
Outside of just this core.
And is that something the select board has to approve that subcommittee or is?
I would believe, well, they dismantled the last one.
Well,
so
I'm just
assuming
asking.
they
They
have
have to-
to approve it, yeah. I know Dennis was part of the subcommittee in the past, so would that have to go through the select board, Dennis? Or can we just, as a conservation group, create a subcommittee?
You'd have to check with Michelle, make sure about this, but the way I understand it, it could be done either way. Either the select board could appoint the open space committee like they did the most recent one. The previous open space committees that I served on, 2 or 3 previous ones, were a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. And the Conservation Commission appointed the members.
Okay, so is that you volunteering? Is that what I just heard?
Yeah, I might.
All right, good.
I think I'd be more. Like, if, I mean, I guess. I think as us, if we could bring in a. You know what I mean? I'm more apt to that than the select board.
Okay,
But-
so
but
I will
either
have a
way,
conversation with Michelle.
Yeah,
Michelle being the
Michelle, yeah.
town clerk.
Yeah.
And find out the particulars of going about doing this. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I would rather us do it and keep everybody else out of it, so
I mean,
that
I
we can
remember
run
like
it
the
the way we
typical
want.
agenda was literally going through every park, every open space with a very brief sort of status report. And then moving on to those that needed attention and letting the other ones go. I mean, it made a lot of sense and Concom was informed.
It would, and you know what? It
So,
would
yeah.
save us time at this meeting.
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could
agreed.
divert some of it to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
it'd be great.
Do
I
you
love
want- Do you want me to read what the open space planning committee like description is? I
You
have
could
it.
send it out. We don't need to read it. No, send it out.
No.
Is there a game or something?
Yeah. No, we haven't even gotten to old business yet.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah. So just trying to move things along. Not to pressure you, Norm. Take all the time in the world you want. You know? What is LPP up to these days?
I'll be brief.
You want to blow up a beaver house?
We discussed E. coli like we did, we discussed our 141 on road input to the chapter 91. Go into the details, we talked about the beavers, we've been in favor for years to
Okay, good.
get rid of the beavers and the lodge and move the docks over. So that we have better access to North Pond. We did have a discussion on whether or not to recommend to the Conservation Commission, should we add lift fees for boat lifts and PWC lifts, and our conversation ended up with, we don't agree that there should be fees on that at this point in time.
There should or should not.
Should not be.
Okay. Well, I mean, what's the rationale behind that? I mean, I look at it as, something on the body of water similar to a dock or a float. So how is that different if it's a lift, I guess?
Well, the boat or the PWC sits on top of it. So you're paying for the boat,
Yeah,
why do you have to pay for the land?
okay.
But remember when we did the survey, like managing the survey a couple years ago on what type of lift do you have? Are you 240, 220? Are you battery operated? Are you manual? We wanted to find out if we had any serious issues. People being electrocuted.
Yeah.
And everybody that said, oh, you're asking this information because you want to put fees on the list. So we're not in favor of putting fees on the list.
Or electricity into the water.
Right.
Not in favor of that either,
We're
right?
not in favor
Okay,
of
good.
that.
I just want to make sure.
So that's the brief thing on the LPP.
Really? All right, thank you. So there is a agenda item for 13 North Pond. I know there was a site visit that was out there. They are reconfiguring the plans, so we're gonna put that off until they come back with a new set of plans. Discuss Concon comments on 141 Congamon Road, chapter 91 license. So we made a submittal for their chapter 41 license,
91 license.
chapter 91 license. Is it in there?
Enlighten me on. what it was about.
Oh, yeah.
It was about the length of time.
Bigger and better is what we told them. It was short and sweet, and here it is. So, dear Ms. Hobbs, the Southwick Conservation Commission reviewed the application for a chapter 91 license for 141 Congamon Road at the regular scheduled meeting on August 15, 2022. The commissioners agreed that the proposal could cause a navigational hazard and impede the no wake zone relative to the docks near the culvert connecting Middle and South Ponds. Also, the length of the docks could further cause navigational congestion in the area. The Conservation Commissioners suggested that if an application is approved, it be for either one transit dock only or a reduction in the length of dock, both docks to 100 feet minimum. Your consider is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions, contact me.
Maximum.
Maximum, yes, maximum. You want a copy?
No,
Yeah. You cannot have a copy. At least that one.
you can have that one.
Thank you.
All right, Noble Steed violation discussions with Salt Marsh Industries.
So he's been working with us and trying to fix it. That's all I got right now.
Yeah. Positive progress.
Yes,
LPP finding for non-payment 14 Shore Road.
no updates on that.
Okay. Sofinovsky Land Preserve Site Visit and AgCom response.
Hmm.
You have a response?
I don't think we have a
That-
Bert Hanson, 153 Mark Mining Road.
Mhm.
I don't think we have a response. Right now, we wanna.
Okay.
So the response was basically on the last agenda. And it was the response to the proposal of cutting back some of that vegetation so we could see it. That's all that was. You don't have to do a response, but we can talk about what happened on the site visit on Sunday.
Could you come up?
Me?
No, Norm, or Bert,
Norm
sorry.
technically wasn't there.
No, Bert. Oh, you weren't there?
Wasn't able to be there, no.
Stay where you are.
You
Were you there? You were on the site visit? Would you come up?
Yeah,
And
I
identify
was,
yourself?
but everyone else can say
I
it
was there.
much more eloquently than I can say it. So Mehmet probably could do a great job at.
How are you?
representing it.
And can I get your name and address?
Way, 173 Mort Mining.
Hello again.
Hello again.
So why don't you guys give us some idea of how the visit went?
I want Mehmet to take over. Thank you.
Confession, I haven't been there in a really, really long time, like 6, 7 years, maybe more. It was more open,
Mhm.
for sure, the lower side. The community garden looks great, looks like it's been there forever. Signage, still good, ones that Dennis ordered, those signs are like solid.
Yeah.
They don't fade, they don't do anything, they're like iron, you know, so, but there used to be, when you come off the parking lot, a trail that went in and it was open, you could actually walk by the waters. We had a guy that was a big advocate for disabilities at the time. He wanted to have a trail, which then got lost in conversation because wheelchair accessibility, what kind of gravel, what kind of surface, all of that. Dennis remembers a lot of this too, so there was supposed to be an observation deck off on to one of those, again, with the same idea in mind, so
Mhm.
that people with wheelchairs could come and get up there and observe birds and frogs and whatnot, so, but the whole area was open. With minimal maintenance, they've kept some of them so that it can at least get around it. Limited mowing. Good thing they did it, I think, because otherwise the whole thing would have been lost.
Right.
There's no access to the ponds, there's no visible access to the ponds right now. Wildlife habitat wise, we talked about maybe not clear cutting, considering that so much growth has taken place over the years, that maybe some vista pruning of sorts, where you open up certain areas so that there's some access or some view of a natural pond in its habitat. But just some maintenance stuff is desperately needed.
Yeah.
We talked about the haying on the hills. I think that's continued. The bluebird boxes are still up there from Seth Kellogg's days. Those were part, was it the Boy Scout projects and things like that. So, I mean, the place has a lot of this sort of history. Gene Cass's name came up quite a bit, who was really a spearhead. So questions around certain things, like, I vaguely remember there was at least a preliminary management plan. I think funding was annually fought for,
Right.
but was often made available in varying degrees. It depended on relevance of need, and that's where the money was allocated to.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah, I don't know if any of that's been happening, for example, I'm not really sure, but there's a management program of some sort, I think was at least suggested, written, or proposed at one time. So there should be this paper trail of things that are Sopanowski. I remember, and you said yes, when I said this, it was the crown jewel of all the open space projects that we had done. So your neighborhood, followed some of that.
Right.
Like one of the sort of what do we do with the space places,
Now we're the crown jewel.
yeah, right. No, it's good.
Okay.
So it's sad to see it kind of not being attended to. Hence, the open space committee maybe should be brought back, in part just for that reason, so there's more people engaged in these things, so that they don't fall by the wayside. I'm sure you guys would want to join something like that, just because it helps to have these things kept alive. Otherwise,
So I think a couple of things. One is, so you guys, based on your visit, recommend that maintenance be done.
Yeah.
And, I guess I would ask if you could jot down hey, these are some of the things I think we should do, just so, not that it's a management plan,
yeah,
but it's fresh in your mind.
right.
And then we can kind of go from there. Again, there's funding available if we need funding on that property to
Right.
do some of these projects. I will ask, is there a scout in need of an Eagle project? Isn't one of the smaller Cronin looking for one?
Yeah, he's working on the bike trail.
And who was the other one? Little Crowley?
All done,
He's done?
done.
Nobody else on?
Grassy is after that.
Okay,
He's next in line.
okay. Do we want to start maybe full land maintenance?
See what he wants to do.
Okay.
There's
Kind of
certain,
agreed on there's a trail between the ponds and there's a place along the pond, where the underbrush is narrower, where it would be the least amount of work and get the most bang for your buck of
Right.
just removing some underbrush along the edge of the pond as a starting point,
Mhm.
so that you could have an opening where hikers could see the pond, not.
I mean, the vision was that, like, there was a picnic table left over from, I don't know when, how old. And there was like stuff growing through it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It just tells you that there was a different vision at one point that just gotten lost somewhere,
and there's,
yeah.
well, there was certainly like some invasives. that
Yeah, I was gonna
probably,
mention that.
Yeah, so
There's a lot
that
of
stuff, we determined we would be able to take care of the invasives at the very least,
yeah, good.
I
In all candor, I think it's great that we want to do this, but here's what we run into, right? We have a budget for property maintenance. We don't have a staff to do it. So
Right.
then it's based on volunteers
Right.
going out and doing the work, or we use the funds that we have to pay for somebody. It would be better if we had the staff. The problem is getting work parties available. when we did that meet and greet for North Pond a couple of weeks ago, it was Marissa and I. Mary Ann was there for a little while, but it wasn't the turnout I was hoping for. So I will say whatever we come up with is great, but if we don't get bodies to do the work, then we're just blowing hot air. So,
Well, anytime you have a work day over there, my husband and I, we have 3 chainsaws, a tractor, a pickup and a dump trailer, and we'll be there.
so from that one area where you're talking about knocking down the brush, are you familiar with it? What she was talking
We
about?
got vines and stuff growing into trees and things. That's kind of where it's at now.
Yeah,
They're about, inch or more thick. And then there's just stuff, stuff that likes the edge of water.
Yeah.
And we're like,
so if you could, because we want to document something on this, if on like the map of the property, you showed us on that map where you wanted to do what you were going to be doing, does anybody have a problem if they went out and started cutting down some of this small stuff?
No.
Not at all.
Okay. Yeah,
If you're more planning, I hate to even say this, but where are we with the conservation restrictions and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I looked, well, so here's the problem with the conservation restriction. I'm glad Dennis is still on it. Dennis, all I can find is like a draft of the conservation restriction that has the notes of what the committee was looking to do at the time. I can't find the actual conservation restriction, or have you since found it?
I have not found it. Marisa found it. It's attached to the deed.
Oh.
And it's not necessarily a conservation restriction, I believe, and Dennis probably can correct me if I'm incorrect. It's not the same as what has happened with North Pond. It's much smaller. And I actually have not had time to read it, but it's right here.
Can
Attached to
you
the deed.
circulate that?
Mhm.
Dennis,
So
go ahead.
Dave, I believe it's a deed restriction in lieu of the conservation restriction. There are different ways to do conservation restrictions, and I think you guys would be crazy if you didn't let these great neighbors, stewards of the property, they're ready to volunteer to do this work, and they've been working on that property ever since we've had it, and they've done a fantastic job. They've cleared out debris. I can't say enough how much they've helped out so far, and I would highly recommend it. I mean, there is a management plan, and we got to you got to dig the files out, find Jeff Jourdain's management plan. One of the things that he talked about being a forester was when you cut down the trees, the invasives do come back, and you have to look at that up front. But I think where you're going, there's more invasives than there are trees. So I think that, I would recommend these stewards to the property.
yes, thank you, Dennis, for that. But, and
Thank
we
you.
will, we do pick away at it, but we're old people and, all the help we could get is appreciated.
Look around this table.
If I might interject, Sage Fury, 91 Granville Road. I was also on the
Sage.
site there with Marissa and everyone else. We wanted to let you guys know that we are willing to help any way we can, whether that's feet on the ground, advertising, try and get volunteers, a little bit of money since we do have some savings that doesn't go anywhere. So just let you guys know, you don't have to do this alone. We can actually help join forces on getting some of this done.
Sage, when you say you have money, where would that be coming from?
I think, Bert, we have a savings, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. We have some kind of extra money.
$900, something like that.
Okay, so when is your next meeting?
The 14th, second Wednesday of the month, so I think it's 14th.
So can you guys put together a work date and then we'll join whoever we can get? So if you put one on the calendar and let us know, all right? That would be happy to come out there and lop stuff down. Excellent.
Yeah, that's from there earlier.
All right.
Thanks for bringing them up. Because,
Well, great. All right, we got one more thing on the agenda.
That's it. Oh,
That's it. Did you have anything else?
no.
You sure?
Yep.
the thing I mentioned, and I'll mention it again, is that, with those, usually, people picking that stuff is okay, as long as bigger equipment doesn't show up on the site, like excavators and such.
Well,
Or, you
that's
start
a fact.
swooping things, greater than what you intended to do, or
Yeah.
for the good. And all goes wrong,
Yeah.
so that's really it. I think a brush hog or whatnot would be fine, but anything above that would be too
What's
much.
needed is chainsaws.
Chainsaws
loppers,
and clippers,
then
loppers, whatever, yeah,
flat
sure.
plastic
Yeah,
to put down over what is cut so that it doesn't just keep
Yeah,
growing
yeah.
up for a while.
We can get you $900 worth of black plastic.
there you go.
That's a start.
Yeah, that'll get you a couple rolls, won't it?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Trash pickup, is this the conversation between Dave Sutton and me? Is that
Yep.
what we're talking about?
That'll
Okay,
be-
so last thing on the agenda, I had a conversation with Dave Sutton from Buildings and Facilities regarding trash pickup. So right now, Buildings and Facilities, there's trash pickup at the Lipinski property and Granville Gorge. We talked about expanding that to having them do Sofinowski and North Pond.
Gorge. Oh, also Sofinowski?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, all 4 properties. They want to be compensated for it. Right now, their hourly wage is, I believe it's $15.60 an hour. So he wanted 4 hours a week. I'm leaning towards you should be able to do that in 2 hours a week. So instead of relying on volunteers, we would ask them to go out and do that. My recommendation would be Mondays would probably be the best days after the weekend when there's the most trash. So that would come out of our land maintenance budget. And, again, 2 hours during the week, during the summer months. I know the gorge closes in the winter. The other properties are still open, but I don't see needing more than an hour a week in the winter months.
Yeah, right.
And then we would just be transferring funds from our account to their account to cover the cost of their labor. So I wanted to bring that up to the board or the commission to see if there was an opinion on that, concerns.
I think it's good. Yeah.
Because, like I
So
said,
Are they gonna just decide how much time is needed? Like you said, the winter, obviously, they don't need as much. Is that something that was just like an ongoing kind of thing where we see as needed or?
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think the first time through, we would say, okay, these are set hours.
Yeah.
We're paying you 2 hours a week during
Yeah,
the summer.
yeah.
And during the winter, we say 1 hour a week. But if that changes and they come back to us and say, well, it's taking 5 hours, well, I mean, we have
Yeah, yeah.
constraints on our
Yeah,
budget
yeah,
too.
yeah.
But I think we'll definitely be flexible, but
Yeah.
I want to at least get the ball
No,
rolling.
exactly, yeah.
So it would be, 30, let's just round it up, $32 a week to have them go around and collect trash from all 4 properties. I think that's a pretty good bargain.
Mhm.
You can't get waste management out here for that,
No,
and
Did they do Tuesday?
Emptying the trash can.
no, not until further instructions, okay? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I went out to North Pond today and it was all contained, but it was 3 large bags of trash, right? And I don't mind doing it, but I can't do it all the time. Sabrina can't do it all the
I
time.
still have it in from Friday. I've got 3 bags of trash from
Yeah.
Friday, so that's six bags of trash in less than
Right.
a week.
So I'm going to propose to him that we do 2 hours a week. And if he agrees to it, I'm just gonna send him on his way. All right, that is it for the agenda. Anybody else have anything for the commission tonight? Can I get a recommendation or a
Motion.
motion?
I make a motion to end the meeting for today.
Second. All in favor? Please vote aye.
Okay,
Do you
I'm
want
going to
these?
close the meeting for all. Just